No, thank you. Good morning. No, thank you. Good morning. It's going to be a lot of that this morning. Eric's on full guard, high alert. Good morning. Perfectly timed. Eric. It's chaos here this morning. If you are watching, put hello in the comments. Calm the dog down. Come on. Up, come. Let's try this. Here we are. Yes, hello, welcome. If you are watching, do please pop a hello in the comments. It will be chaos. I promise it will be chaos today, but we'll do our very best to get through it. There will be dog barking. There will be noise. But we'll see. There we go. Good morning, Melanie. Eric's just being super guard dog today. Good morning, Kerry. Yes, cloudy Clonelly. Yeah, we got rain. We've got grey skies. Yeah. Good evening, Zephora. New lippy. It's one I found in an odd handbag. It is a bit chaotic and twirly here. So yeah, I just rooted through a handbag and found it. Good morning, Susan. Wet and sluggy, West Sussex. That's a good, yes, it's wet and sluggy here. Definitely a good description. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Sue. Yes, Eric's here, aren't you? In full vocal. He's watching and waiting. It's been a week. Good morning, Xenia. Yeah, he's definitely Barky McBarkson today. Good morning, Emma. Yeah, we're all good here. Thank you. We are. The loft is being done. It's amazing. The work the guys have done is absolutely. Hey. We have to distract him. Right, should we put one in here? Morning. You have to distract him. I have treats and games and all sorts of things to stop him barking. Just being a bit protective, aren't you? Anyway. Melanie, sunshine here in the northeast. We had our winter day yesterday. Yeah, we had torrential rain yesterday. Absolutely chucked it down all day. I don't think there's any more in there. Should we show? We have one of these. This is quite good. We have one of these, and he has to find the treats in. It's a bit distracting from doorbells and people talking, and yeah, there you go. Good morning, Angela, from a damp and miserable France. Yeah, it is. That's pretty much what we got here. Hey ho. Right. Yes. So, yes, we are having our loft done. They are amazing. The work is just astounding, but it might get a little bit noisy. And someone is barking at everything. He's barking now because they're talking. It's been quite a long week. Good morning, Leslie. Sephora just harvested a basket of calendula. Very nice. Nice spring day here, although equinox feels more appropriate for season change. Yeah, it's definitely on the change, isn't it? Xenia, we have a phase of 30 degrees every day. It's draining. Oh, it is when it's really hot, isn't it? Right, you need to settle down. They're going to be here all day. So we don't need to bark, do we? Yeah, I thought after our talk last week that we'd talk about actually harvesting and how to harvest plants and preserve them, keep them for magical use. What parts of the plants to harvest? It's that time of the year. It is the right time of the year to be. Everything's coming into seed and coming to the end of its flowering, and there's so much in the gardens and the hedgerows that you can harvest. So that's what we're talking about today. Good morning, Debbie. Me and the cat watched the lightning at 6 a.m. We both oohed and hard. We haven't had that yet. I was awake at 6 though. Sephora catnip tincture for Eric. Works a treat. Interesting. I have tried all sorts of things. he's quite reactive because he's a rescue. So he's scared of a lot of stuff as well. So it's just a git, really. Good morning, Bella. Good morning, Tina. Loving your course and watching your fun videos. Thank you. These weekly chats are not just about me. The Scorpio side of me would like to think that, obviously, but it's more about community. It's more about you guys. It's connecting with you guys every week, which is fabulous. We all learn from each other. Oh, Tony, not Bella. Thank you for that. Good morning. Angela, been so wet here that although there's a bumper crop of blackberries that are mildew before they're fully ripe. Yeah, see, that's one of the things, isn't it? And that's one of the things to kind of think about when you are drying herbs, drying plants. I've had quite a lot over the years that don't dry properly. There's a few hints and tips that we'll look at for those, for getting around those. Emma, pretty sure you love your little git. I do. He's very lucky that I do. Especially yesterday when he wouldn't go outside and pee. So we've had a fun morning, haven't we? You fell over this morning as well, which was very exciting. Wasn't it? It's so graceful. It is chaos, but we're getting there. Xenia, look forward to the Friday chats every week. So do I, Xenia. So do I. It's a brilliant way of connecting. Yeah, make coffee noise. That's fine. We're going to run with chaos today.
Run with chaos.
Well, not run, because that's a bit energetic. That's a bit energetic. Too energetic. So yeah, that
walk slowly alongside chaos, perhaps.
That's the kettle going on. Yeah, so harvesting today is not actual harvesting, combine harvesting, because that's a bit large scale. I will say that myself, Ness and Heather all invested in a dehydrator, and we are all very impressed with it. Let me see if I can not knock the coffee over and show you the dehydrator. This is what we all bought. See, it's got stuff in it. It's brilliant. Absolutely love it. I have been dehydrating everything. If it doesn't move for about 20 seconds, it gets put in the dehydrator. Eric's going to get put in there if he keeps barking. It's absolutely brilliant. And it was about 30 quid. So not bad at all. It ensures that things don't get put away in jars and go mouldy, which I have had on occasion. I think there are certain ways of avoiding it. Try and pick your flowers, leaves, whatever they might be, before it gets too hot in the day, but make sure there's no dew left on them. If you pick them when they're still damp, then they're pretty much guaranteed to go mouldy. Before the dehydrator, I used to lay things out on trays on kitchen towel and put them out here. So the sun in conservatory, kitchen, wherever you've got dry, warm place is basically what you need. If you've got an airing cupboard, that works really well as well. But keep an eye on them because they do have a habit of going a bit mouldy. Angela, that's on the bushes before me, but able to pick them. Yeah, it's the wet, damp weather all of a sudden as well, isn't it? That doesn't help. Right, let's do this. Saw someone make a fantastic plant dryer out of a frame of a no longer working fan. Worked a treat. That would, because that's all these are. I mean, they've got the. I keep wanting to call it a defibrillator. And it's definitely not that. And Ness yesterday called it a dehumidifier. So I'm having to stop and think each time what the proper name is. So it is just that. Looks a bit like a fan thing, doesn't it? So I've got pyracantha on here. Next door have a pyracantha and it grows over air vents, which is absolutely fine. We kind of share plants. But there was a big long bit sticking out, so I cut it off. And I thought pyracantha would be good because it's got nice spikes on it. So yeah, they're just trays, aren't they? And I'm assuming the air at the bottom dries out the moisture. It's very clever. And it works incredibly well. I've got hollyhocks mostly in there today. Let's get that out and show you if we can. Here we go. So yeah, I've got all the little hollyhock seed pods. They look like little purses. They look like little purses. They're full of seeds. I've got lots of seeds, collected lots of seeds as well. All of them can be used for magical purpose. All of it. It's that time of the year. So the hollyhock self-seeded, but it grew. It was about 10 to 12 feet tall. It was like the kraken in the garden. But it's kind of done its thing. It had got seed pods pretty much all the way up. There was the odd flower on the end. And I put a couple of the flowers that were left in the dehydrator too. So I cut it right back to ground level, took all the seed pods off. All of the dried seeds I took out and put in the jar. I sprinkled some around the garden as well. Some had already done their thing and they're around the garden. And I cut all the seed pods off and they're all in there. So it had done its thing. It had provided us with beautiful colour over the summer, but it was coming to the end of its life. So I've extended it by keeping all of the bits and pieces. And you can, they're everything, flowers, seed pods, leaves. Don't disregard the stems of things either, particularly for herbs, rosemary and tarragon and brain's gone, mint, all of it. Keep the stems as well. The stems can all be, they've all got that same magical purpose, same magical properties. So keep it all. We'll go through in a minute how to harvest all of the particular things, but yeah, frame from a fan would be brilliant. Karen's had it. Yeah, dehydrator. It's new to me. I'd never had one before. It's very exciting. Jane, lots of rose hips about. Yes, some of theirs in the garden have got rose hips on. Lovely for making rose hip syrup. Bung them in the freezer till you need them and the cell walls get broken down and make better syrup. Yep, I've got a bottle of elderberry rob actually that Ness made, which is brilliant. Tony has a dehydrator as well. I'm very late to the party, I think. Sephora. Next thing you need to invest in is a jar sealer. Sucks all the air out and seals jars so no moisture. Oh, okay. Very clever. Sue, tried to dry some orange slices for your decorations. They were drying for months but still went moldy. With things like that, sliced apples, sliced pear, sliced oranges, limes, lemons, I dry them off in an oven. Slice them really thinly and put them in a very low oven for a good few hours. And that dries them out brilliantly. Karen, will be drying my comfrey today. Very nice. That's good for making plant food for the garden. They do look like Chinese dumplings. I'll get one out again. They do, don't they? Little Chinese dumplings. I'm going to see them now as Chinese dumplings. Good morning, Candy. Sarah, what can alder tree buds be used for, please? Alder. What do you use them for? I think with all of these things, I mean, I saved them all, and there are traditional meanings for things. Let's look up alder. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a very long week. Not something that I use very often, actually, alder. Is it in the herb book? That's the question. Let's have a look. Now I'm going to look weirdly at the screen because I'm looking at a book. Alder. No, it's not in there. That's rubbish. Let's have a look. I think it's about connecting. It's about connecting with the energy. Hold the buds in your hand and make a connection with them and see what magical properties and words, feelings, everything comes to you. I am writing a tree book at the minute, but I haven't got to alder yet. So let's have a look and see what we've got. Oh yes, alder. Now alder is the wood that is white, but when it cuts, the sap is a red kind of color. So it's a symbol of blood and bleeding, which is super cool. I'm just looking for stuff. But I think it's got to mean something to you, doesn't it? You can look up all of the properties. Let's have a look. Okay, alder. Releasing, shielding, determination, inner confidence, foundations. Okay, that's quite nice. Quite good, quite useful. Everything has a magical property, and you can look up all the traditional meanings like I just did, but I think it has to mean something specific to you. Every alder tree will have a slightly different personality to the next alder tree. So it's about making that connection yourself and finding out, but it's also about looking at how it grows, where it grows. Willow tree, for instance, usually grows by water. Willow for me is very much full of emotions because it's got that strong water connection. Oak tree, always strong, always tall, strength, courage. Think about the connections, think about how it grows, think about what you recognize from it. It has to be personal, I think. Angela, can make a vacuum sealer from a brake pump, needs no electric, but a lot of the vacuum sealers, the kind of sealing bags, often have a jar attachment now. Okay, I am missing out on all this tech stuff, haven't they? Hi, Jalala. It will be on replay, my lovely. We'll, where you don't get rid of us. Angela has 3 dehydrators. Now, I know some people use them for food things. I know Heather was drying sliced bananas to make banana chips, but I haven't used it for anything edible yet. I've just been chucking everything in there for magical use. Candy. I have lemon balm all over my yard, dry it for tea during the winter. Lemon balm grows like a loony, absolute loony. Karen, using comfrey to make a salve with other ingredients. Nice. There are so many different uses for things, aren't there? Good morning, Claire. Now, yeah, Sarah, you can use anything, any plant matter, leaves, buds, seed pods, petals, whole flowers, thorns, even the roots. Every part of the plant has magical property, and every part of it can be used in magical workings. I mean, there are medicinal sides to things as well, but I prefer not to go into those because herbal remedies are quite powerful and they can have adverse effects with health issues, with other over-counter medicine and stuff. So if you are looking at herbal remedies, do your proper research and seek some proper herbalist advice. But from a magical point of view, everything can be used. But even then, bear in mind, I mean, I spent yesterday picking lots of hollyhock bits, seed pods off and cutting it back. Hollyhocks can be very irritating to the skin. They've got tiny little hairs on them that are like little needles. And that I had all, itchy arms and hands after I'd done it, even wearing gloves. So bear in mind that some plants can do that. A little bit of research before you start handling them. But I save pretty much everything from the garden because it can all be used for magical property. I have to be honest, probably the worst witch ever. No, you're not, Emma. I had to buy my dried herbs because I'm no good at gardening and I'm restricted to going out. Freya's Cauldron's brilliant. Yeah, Freya's Cauldron's brilliant for all kinds of herbs and things. There's absolutely no issue with that whatsoever, Emma. I buy a lot of stuff too. I've only got a tiny garden. And there's things that I use, although I like to stick to native things if I can. I can't grow cinnamon in the UK. That would not grow in my garden. Definitely couldn't grow frankincense. Although pine resin works very well if you want to stick to something from the UK. I'm not growing a pine tree in my garden either. There's no room. So it's about, doing what works for you. But everything, even blades of grass, dandelions growing in the cracks in the pavement, they've all got magical properties. So it's about doing what works for you. Let's get some of these up now. We do all buy herbs. Sephora, good thing is dehydrators not expensive to run, which is great and very useful when freezer is getting too full. Amazing, a whole pumpkin can be dehydrated into a coffee jar. They are amazing things, aren't they? I did think it might make shrunken heads, but I'm not sure how you'd get the head in there. Anyway. Sephora, just munching on Yacon chips, warm just out of the dehydrator. I have not heard of that. Sounds delicious though. Here we go, Karen. Order is balancing male and female energies. The leaves cool and smooth and soothe stems made whistles. Okay, cool. Yacon. It's a great snack like this if you need to be careful about sugar consumption. I'll have to look into that. So let's have a look. So let's start with flowers. I did put one or two in here. Ooh. There were a couple of hollyhock flowers left on the trees. They need a little bit more dehydrating. So there were some. Oh, there we go. Left on the plant. They need a bit more dehydrating, but I picked those off. So flowers, pick them when it's not damp. Avoid the dew and avoid it when it's rained. Make sure they are quite dry when you pick them. Lay them on trays on kitchen towel. If you pick them with their stalks, you can hang them upside down. Some people put a brown paper bag around them to collect any seeds if they've got seed heads on them. Bear in mind, if you do dry them in the sunshine, they will fade. I've been quite impressed with the dehydrator. It does seem to keep the colour better than just drying them normally. I tend to pick them just before the flower goes over. If it's things like daffodils, actually, I let the flowers dry on the plant. I let them go over completely, and then you can just pick the daffodil head off and it's already dried. But in the summer, with all of the flowers, I do wait till kind of probably the day before you deadhead it. So it still looks like a flower, but it's past its best. And then I dry them from there so that you have the summer colour, you have the flower doing its thing, and then you save it for magic. Seeds are brilliant. Lots of seeds. I mean, the amount of seeds that are in one of these little hollyhock. I mean, I got tons. This is just from one hollyhock plant. Seed heads, again, on a dry day, make sure they're not damp. Bear in mind that if they are dry, the seeds will go everywhere. So do brown paper bags, probably your best bet for those. Bark is another one if you like to work with trees. You can harvest small amounts of bark from trees without hurting them too much. I can't do it. I cannot bring myself to strip bark from a tree. It goes against everything that I feel. But you might feel the need. You might feel drawn to it. Talk with the tree first, but be very, very careful about, just a tiny piece. Don't do your research first. Identify the type of tree and the different methods. There are all different methods for taking it off. I prefer to look on the forest floor, on the woodland floor, for fallen pieces of bark, and then I use them. Roots can be worked with. Not something that I work with particularly very much because a lot of the plants in my garden are herbaceous perennials, so they stay in the ground. But if you're pulling up summer bedding, or something that's had done its thing, got to the end of its life, you can dry and use the roots in magical workings as well. Make sure you have identified it properly if you are foraging out in the wild. But I think with any of these things, if you are foraging, make sure that you leave enough of the plant so that it can still grow. You know this. If it's berries, if it's seeds, leave enough for the birds to enjoy as well. It's common sense, really. It is common sense. But roots can be dried. Chop them up, dry them. They work really well. Leaves are probably one of the easiest. You can pick leaves off things, particularly if they're herbs, because herbs like to have their leaves picked. It keeps them growing. You have to do it with herbs. Otherwise, they get all leggy. So herbs, I don't mind picking leaves off of. I just say, I'm going to pick some leaves. It's going to be good for you. Don't worry about it. This time of the year, the leaves will soon start to fall off of the trees. Oi, thank you. And if you're cutting back things, then keep the leaves, dry the leaves. Again, dry day, If you are taking things off the tree, twigs work really well. They work really well in magical workings, particularly in incense and things like that, because woody and they burn a bit longer. Just if you are cutting it from the tree, hey, come here. If you are cutting them off the tree, make sure that you do it properly with clean secateurs. Do not pull things off of trees. Do not pull branches off because you'll damage the tree. Berries. Now we've got berries at the minute. We've got a very tiny little rowan tree in our garden, but that's covered in berries at the moment. String rowan berries onto thread, needle and thread, string all the berries on and hang it up and they will dry on the thread. Brilliant for that. But there's all sorts of berries. Blackberries, not so easy to keep. Freeze them, make them into crumbles. That's the best bet for blackberries. With things like blackberries, I would collect the thorns and the leaves and use those in magical working instead. Berries, if you're going to eat them, you can put them in the freezer first to keep them. But everything, pretty much everything, can be dried as well. Right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Good morning, Maharet. Sephora. Elderflowers are lovely. Dried and chamomile looks like a shrunken egg. Now, I'll tell you what is impressive. If you've grown any antirrhinums, snapdragons this year, let them go to seed. They have the most amazing seed heads. They look like little alien skulls. They are really impressive. Definitely something. If you didn't grow them this year, grow them next year purely for the seed heads. They look amazing. Let's put a blanket on the dog. Ooh. Have some mistletoe left from yours. It is so dry. I think it could be powdered. What can I use this for? I didn't bring my book out, did I? I'm very unorganized. Be careful with mistletoe because it can have a bit of toxicity to it. If you are going to be grinding and powdering herbs, which I do a lot, keep a separate pestle and mortar for it. You don't want to be cross-contaminating it with food because things like mistletoe can make you very poorly. Let's get my book up. So I don't remember all of these things. I don't come across mistletoe very often because I don't find it very often. Oh, bear with me. Honestly, I do know what I'm doing. Sometimes. Mistletoe, fertility, protection, love, health, and dreams. Ruled by the sun, element of air, because it hangs up in the trees, doesn't it? It doesn't have roots in the ground, so it hangs up in the trees. Very strong masculine projective energy. Let's have a look. It is a very liminal plant. It is an in-between plant because it does hang up in the trees. But yeah, protection, love, peace to your household, fertility, dream, healing, spell work, especially for spiritual healing. And you kiss under the mistletoe, so it's got that love connection to it as well, hasn't it? Angela, strip bark from fallen branches. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I have seen people take bark from the trees, but it makes my heart break. So yeah, fallen branches, strip the branch off, bark off. Brilliant. Good morning, David. Plants and herbs, that's more my partner's territory. She's the gardener. Yeah, I mean, I am a gardener, but I think if you are a witch, you don't need to be a gardener technically to collect things from the wilds or, even blades of grass kind of thing. Doesn't know the magic use, but the medical, growing them names. The magical bits of my department. Teamwork, see? Teamwork. She tells you about the plant and how to use it to relieve headaches. I tell you how it tastes and sticking it in your shoe brings money. Yeah, that's me. I actually did train as a herbalist. I've got a certificate and everything. But I'm terrified that I'm going to prescribe something to somebody that makes them really poorly. So I do shy away from that and work with the magical ones. Ruby, hadn't thought of using roots. What might we use them for? Exactly the same things you would for any of the rest of the plant. But I think the root brings kind of a grounding, earthy energy as well, because that's where it is. It can be chopped up and added to spell pouches, witch bottles. If you dry it well enough, you can grind it and use it as magic powder. But roots also burn really well in incense. Any of the woody stems of herbs and plants or the roots will help your incense blend burn for longer. If you just make an incense blend with dried herbs, it's going to, and it'll be gone. So putting woody stuff in makes your incense burn longer. So roots, pretty much what you would use any of the plant for, really. Thyme leaves will have the same magical properties as the roots of the thyme plant. So, but there are some that do lend themselves to roots. Things like High John the Conqueror, which I don't use very often because it's not native to the UK. Dandelion root makes, I won't say a good coffee. Dried dandelion root makes a coffee substitute. It's disgusting, but it is there are things like that are specifically where they root mandrake root. For everyone that's a Harry Potter fan, they're the ones that they pull out of the ground and they're screaming and you have to wear ear defenders. So roots, some of them do have their own specific uses, but generally for anything that you would use any of the rest of the plant for. Jane, stripping bark from a tree is like flaying a living thing. Oh, I'm with you. Absolutely. Can just imagine the tree squirming in pain. Taking bark that's not ready to fall can leave a tree vulnerable to infection. Yeah. Yes, I'm absolutely with you on that, Jane. Absolutely. Take it from fallen branches. Sephora, next door's blasted cows are ring barking. Oh, the big Japanese cedar in the shelter belt. Maybe if I hung sausages from the trees, they'd get the idea. Yeah, a little bit expensive to do. I mean, in the wilds, rabbits do quite a lot of damage to trees, as do deers. But then the slugs damaged quite a lot of our garden plants this year. The amount of slugs that have eaten stuff is ridiculous this year. Emma. My cousin went to our nearest lavender field where you can take what you want, and there's a gift shop too. We have one near us as well. She shared her harvest with me, and in return, I taught her how to make an abundance bundle. Nice. Bartering. Love it. Marie, mistletoe is very popular with the Druids. Absolutely. It is a very magical plant because it is that liminal in between kind of otherworldly plant because it hangs in the trees. Very magical. I mean, I obviously have a garden, so I do harvest stuff from the garden. I'm just looking now to see what else is out there that I've done. I've got a little bit of holly from next door's holly tree that hangs over a fence. So I dried some holly leaves and some holly twigs so that I can work with that in incense. Just having a look. Roses, rose petals. I've got to be one of the easiest things to collect and dry and use in all sorts of magical workings. Don't forget the thorns as well. Thorns on roses are brilliant. They're brilliant for protection. They're brilliant for using on poppets. They're good for carving into candles. Any thorns are good for that. Tend to use petals, rose hips, and thorns from the rose bush, but you can use the leaves, you can use the stems, absolutely. What else? We've got geraniums or pelargoniums, I should say. Flowers, petals from those dried really well in the dehydrator. Actually, they kept their color, which was quite nice. And geranium, just one of my favorites. The leaves of geranium work really well in magical workings as well, particularly if you get the scented pelargoniums, because they bring in all sorts of lemon scents. And there's a chocolate scented one and a cola scented one that brings in a bit of extra energy as well. Now I have got some coleus in the pots, really beautiful coloured leaved annual plants. They did not dry well. They looked like dead flies when I tried them. I was hoping the beautiful colours would stay, but they did not. So it is a bit of trial and error. Do have to work with what you've got. What else have we got? Oh, echinacea. I did dry some of the echinacea flowers and they came out really well. What else what else have we got out there? I'm looking. I have dried lots of things. Hibiscus. They dry really well. What else we got? Olive leaves. Fruits, I tend to keep the stone. Use the fruit, eat the fruit, and keep the stone for magical purpose. And then you kind of get a double whammy from it. But I'm looking, there's all sorts of stuff out that in my garden that you wouldn't find in a magical book. So we've got clematis, we've got heuchera, salvia, geum, red hot pokers, penstemon, agastache. You won't find those in magical books with magical meanings. So I devised my own. Connect with the energy of the plant. See what energy it gives me. See if it gives me any ideas, feelings, motions, words in my head. And then I'll look at the colour of it and the way that it grows and take my magical properties from that. To me, that's the best way with all of the plants, because then you've got a personal connection with it, and it will. I use basil for money magic. I use mint for money magic. They might not work for you, so it has to be what works for you. You have to have that personal connection with it. Sephora, you can protect young trees from rabbits with a mixture of acrylic paint and eggs. I've not heard that one before. Rabbits would have a job getting into my garden because it's got a brick wall all the way around it. They would have to use block and tackle to get over it. Although we did used to have house rabbits before we had children, and they ate the furniture and the telephone lines. So, Jane, valerian root can get you rooted in the land of the nod, and horseradish root can give you courage and confidence. Everything has magical properties, but it is about being careful as well. If you are going to ingest them, valerian particularly, be careful on the dosage. But everything, you're looking at roots, horseradish root we use to make horseradish sauce. But think about the other roots, carrots, parsnips, beetroots. They've all got magic properties. In fact, since having the dehydrator, nothing is safe. I was peeling sweet potatoes the other day, and I'd put the peel in a pile to, put out. And I thought, that would go in the dehydrator. So I've got a big bag of dried sweet potato peel now that I'm going to keep for magical purpose. So everything has magic to it. Jane, pelargoniums are an essential ingredient in my peace dust recipe, ruled by Venus and bringing love and protection when sprinkled across thresholds. I love them. They are some of my favourite plants. Generally, if you buy them in the garden centre, they'll be called geraniums. They're technically not geraniums, they're pelargoniums, but they're bright and they're loud and they're brash. Folklore says that witches always have red pelargoniums growing outside their house to warn of people coming in. I love folklore. It's got some brilliant stuff. Ruby, I have 3 little holly trees in pots. Put some on my dragon altar. The spiky edges remind me of the traditional image of a dragon's back. Absolutely. Our neighbour's holly tree self-seeds all around their garden. So I'm always finding little holly seedlings. Holly I like for dragon magic, but also some of the begonias. If you look at some of the begonias, their leaves are shaped like dragon wings. So it is about making that connection. So I use holly for dragon magic. I use begonias for dragon magic because the leaves look like wings or scales or spines, or you have to make that connection. Emma, isn't echinacea good for bruises too? Like it brings a bruise up to heal quicker. I think you're thinking of arnica. Arnica is very good for bruising. Echinacea, very good for immune system. But, medical stuff, check first. Sephora, the Maori King's burial was yesterday. I saw that. What an amazing ceremony. The women wear black with head covered and then greenery crown on the head. It was very impactful. They used ferns, magical properties for ferns. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I did see that. If you haven't seen the reporting on the Maori King's burial, just amazing ceremony. Ferns, I think it's about, I don't know if they're in the book. I haven't looked. Let's have a look. I'm not sure if they are. Ferns, to me, ferns are ancient. Oh, they are in there. Okay. I'm looking in my book, Kitchen Witch's World of Magical Plants and Herbs. Ferns, to me, are about ancestors. Ferns are ancient. The ferns were here when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. So for me, they are about connecting with your ancestors. They also like shade. So for me, I think there's a big otherworld connection there. Spirit world, underworld, the world of fairy as well is often connected with ferns. Have ferns in your house to bring protection and love. So it is fern is spirit world, underworld, fairy, protection, love. Apparently carrying the little seeds with you will make you invisible. There's a disclaimer there. Not actually invisible superpowers, but will make people ignore you, not take notice of you. Ruled by Mercury and the element of air. But I think there's a very strong ancestors energy there for ferns, which might be, their connection to it. Yeah, definitely. I've been watching some of the reporting on it. Amazing stuff. Now you come to mention it. Parsnips must be good for astral projection since they turn into rocket fuel when they get past the belly button. I don't think that's one of the traditional properties of it. They do carry very strong masculine energy, if you get my drift. I do like parsnips, are yummy. Anything, I think, that is a root vegetable will have a grounding, earthy energy to it as well. Candy. Had a dehydrator for years, but I like drying in my oven better. The oven works brilliantly too. Long and low in the oven if you are drying things. David, everything goes into our dehydrator. We have to fight for it though. I want it to dry herbs and things for spells, and she wants to use it for snacks and treats for the pups. Yeah, no, it's herbs and magical stuff goes in mine. It's my dehydrator. But it is a trial and error. The girls and I have both got them at the same, all three of us got them at the same time. So we're kind of comparing notes about, Ness decided that slows take about 3 years to dry the dehydrator. Yeah, it's about trial and error, I think, isn't it? Jane, I have newt, mustard seed, wing of bat, holly leaf. Yes, absolutely. There was all sorts of those folk names for things are just regular plants. But it's, it's more interesting to say wing of bat, isn't it? Melanie, love ferns, have by my door for protection. Perfect. Yeah, ferns, spirit and ancestors, grief, clarity, purification. Yeah, for me it is the whole ancestor, because they are so ancient, and the fact that they do we've got some growing in. We've got an alleyway down the side of our house, which is quite dark and damp. Used to be where the coal would go, and ferns just have appeared all by themselves because it's the right situation for them. It is dark and it is damp. So they're thriving and flourishing there. So that to me is very much underworld. It is making those connections. It is absolutely making those connections. Seeds, seed heads. I think there's a lot of seeds coming into being now. Make sure you leave enough for the birds. Make sure you keep some to plant. But seeds, I think seeds in all plants are about new beginnings, fertility. The seed is it's an embryo, isn't it? It is the beginnings of a plant. So I think seeds in general are all about new energy, new projects, new beginnings, fertility of all kinds. But obviously each different plant will have its own magical properties as well. Poppy seed heads dry brilliantly. I've got poppy seed heads that are years old that have just sat in the box. And poppy seeds you can use in baking. Very nice on top of a cake. Eric's snoring. Poppy seeds as well. If you get the really big poppy seeds, like the oriental poppies, they have got little holes in, so you can poke little petitions and things in them if you're very careful. I'm just trying to think what else I've used in the garden for all sorts of things. Big leaves can be used as wrapping. If you've got some big leaves, I'm just having a look. We haven't really got anything. Oh, the big begonia leaf for dragon magic. If you had a big begonia leaf, you could write a petition, put your bits and pieces in and fold the leaf up with a bit of dragon magic. Any of the big tree leaves work to wrap spells in. But I think the important part, I mean, I'm not going to collect anything today because everything is soaking wet out there and it will just go yucky. So it is about making sure that they are actually all dry. Emma, why are we not off topic yet? No, we've been very well behaved so far today. A few minutes left if you want to. Sephora ferns make sense. Interesting. It carries over to the other side of the world too. Strong magic. Yeah, yes. The fact that the connections are magical connections are the same. I mean, for me, it's important to stick with as much as possible native plants for me. If the plant is native to the country I live in, then I think it's going to have a stronger connection for me. But there are exceptions to the rule because I love spices. I love cloves. I love star anise. I love cinnamon. That's not going to grow over here. But I think anything, I've mentioned High John the Conqueror, that doesn't grow over here. So I don't use it because it's expensive to buy and it's expensive to ship over. So it is about using what you have locally to you. And if all you've got locally to you is a bit of grass, then work grass magic. Grass has its own magic as well. But most places, I mean, I'm on the edge of a city, but we've got a park just nearby. And it's full of trees and grass and plants and things. I mean, obviously don't go pulling up plants. The girls and I at the last camp we were at a few weeks back, we went on a brilliant walk and the amount of stuff that was in the hedgerows was unbelievable. I must admit we didn't harvest any of it. We did just take photos. But as long as you are careful, make sure that the plant isn't protected because there are some wild plants and flowers that are protected. But oh, morning magpie. Magpie outside. Just be a bit mindful, but you can collect stuff. If it's just for you, then you're not going to need an awful lot of things, are you? Make that connection, really. And there's all sorts of things out there that you can use for magical purpose. Jane, a nice fern has self-sporing in the scraggy bit of lawn under our sycamore tree. I'm going to leave it there because I never had a gift of a fern before. That I'd say they have found their place in their garden, but it's lovely getting a gift, isn't it, from nature? All of these hollyhocks that I'm drying, that was just a gift from nature. It just appeared in the garden. So to be treasured, yeah, definitely. David, got two big ferns sitting out the front by the front door. I think I should name them Gwyneth, Neath, and Aran. Yes, definitely. Like it. Yeah, we give our plants names. The little rowan tree that's growing in our garden is called Joe. You just have to name some of them. What else have we got? A huge bay tree growing out there. I do tend to use that for cooking more than anything, though, I must admit. I have struggled with herbs, struggled with Mediterranean herbs. I've lost so many of them in the last couple of years because of the wet. We have very clay soil. Herbs are Mediterranean and they don't like our clay soil. So it's, yeah, even trying them in pots this year didn't work very well. It's trial and error with gardening too. Karen, I'm collecting today as it's really sunny for a change. I think you've got air sunshine then. Got lots and lots of rowan berries this year. Nice. Yes, even a tiny little tree is covered in rowan berries. Really good for protection, really good for fairy magic as well. And rowan berries are just really easy. Just string them onto thread and leave them to dry. They dry really well. Interesting, the King's funeral made the news in the UK. Yes, we've been hearing about it this week when he announced his successor, his youngest daughter, just before they took him up the river in a waka canoe. It was very powerful stuff. Yeah, I've been following it long. It is fascinating. Beautiful, beautiful ceremonies and ideas. Xenia. Might get a fern because my flat is dark and my previous attempts to have plants have failed. Yeah, ferns don't mind the shade. In fact, they prefer the shade. It's about thinking of the plant and how it grows in nature. Ferns are forest floor plants, so they're not used to lots of sunlight, so they're quite happy in the shade. The same thing, really, I think, with most plants is like herbs. Most herbs are Mediterranean, so they're going to like lots of sunshine. They're going to like scraggy, well-drained soil, which lavender likes lots of sunshine and poor, well-drained soil, which is why it won't grow in my garden, because it's, solid, pretty much, solid clay, although we've dug lots of stuff in over the years. So it's about thinking about the position of the plant as well and where it would grow normally. But again, some things do, Mother Nature has a way of throwing things to, up in the air. But I think harvesting is about just looking and thinking, this plant's come to an end, particularly for me with things like bedding plants, which aren't generally in magical books. Bedding plants are, they're there for a season. They flower for the season, they flower for the summer, and then that's pretty much it. So extend the life of the plant by taking the flowers and the seed heads and the leaves. Plant some next year as well from the seeds, but use those in magical purpose. And then that plant you've extended the purpose of that plant. Anything else, when we're going to start, the leaves are going to start falling in the near future. So collecting those, drying those, lots of things you can do with leaves. I'm just looking out in the garden for inspiration, really. Flowers and things. It just it makes sense, really, to me, to continue that plant's purpose by collecting the flowers and the seed heads and things. I tend to use those more than leaves. If I use leaves, it's because I've pruned something. Like what we got here, like the pyracantha. Again, pyracantha is not one that you will find in a lot of magical books. I'm going to be very careful because it's quite spiky. I mean, that's dried out now, and so there are some leaves, there's some twig, and there's some very, very spiky thorns. Pyracantha, it's got to be a big impact of protection with all of those spikes on. I think the neighbour grows it up over his shed to stop the cats from coming down into his garden. It works quite well. But there's a big, powerful punch of protection in there. And pyracantha has berries on it as well, which can be dried. But yeah, it's going to be... And pyracantha climbs. It has climbed all the way up over his shed and up over our fence. So it would work really well for giving a boost of energy to a spell working. It would be good for reaching your goal because it climbs so well. It also grows quite quickly. So it would be really good to help a spell work fast. It's making those connections. But just I cut a bit off because it was hanging over, chopped it up and dried it. Really, really easy to harvest. I mean, it was so simple. It's just the key, I think, is keeping things dry so they don't go icky. Verburnum have amazing red berries, most of which I leave for the birds, but wondering if you've got anything in your book for that plant. No, because it's not one of the traditional things, but it's the same thing. Look at it. Red berries to me are power. They are warning. They are courage. They are passion because of the color of the red. So it's about looking at the colors, looking at the shape, looking at how it grows, and then making your own magical connections. There are that list of traditional ones. So if they're outside of that, it's about making your own connections with it, like the pyracantha there. Jane, ferns tend to like bathrooms and shower rooms. Yes, because they are tropical rainforest type plants. So they like that moist warm air. David, ferns like shade, but guzzle water like a bucket with a hole in it. Yes. Yeah, again, it's thinking about where they live on the forest floors, tropical forest floors, and it's thinking about their situations. Angela, we have comfrey in a barrel one side of our door, lemon balm on the other side. The lemon balm has escaped its pot, and grown across the doorway. Looks like nettles, so it keeps the unwanted away. Lemon balm is a thug. It's like mint. It's a thug. Yeah, that they need containing. Candy, marigolds are amazing. Plant them in the spring, and as long as I deadhead them, I have them clear up to first frost. Plus, I hold the seeds. Marigolds, I love. The slugs and snails eat them all in their garden. We had some this year. We planted them all. We came out the next morning. There were just stalks left. But marigold petals, I do use in any magical workings for psychic abilities, for making that connection to the spirit world. Marigold petals are one of my go-to for anything with that psychic spirit world connection. Brilliant for that. Jane, pruned my sage. There was so much of it I didn't dry any, but shredded it and put it in the compost bin. We now have an all-seeing, all-knowing compost heap like in Fraggle Rock. Brilliant. Brilliant. Herbs as well, you can freeze. They work very well to freeze as well. Xenia, I love thistles, but I think they grow too large to have them on the balcony in the small pots. Possibly. Possibly. Yeah, some of them do grow really tall. It is really about doing what works for you, but it is making that connection, and it is, this time of the year is perfect for harvesting them. Absolutely perfect. Just make sure it's a dry day and make sure that they are dried. I don't wash things. I don't wash them when I pick them. I just dry them. Because I think they don't need any added water, because that's only going to make them a bit yucky. But everything, try it and see. It is all about experiment. We've got an agapanthus that flowered this year, and I'm just looking at it now, and it's got brilliant, great big seed heads. So when the seeds are dry on the plant, I'm going to pick some of those seeds. I have no idea what magical properties agapanthus brings with it. I will make a connection and see. No, I have no idea. So I will have to connect with those once I pick them and see. I've not used them in magic before, so we'll see where that takes us. No, we didn't go off topic, Emma. Yeah, everyone gets a gold star this week for not going off topic. Yeah, give it a try. And if you want to share any pictures of your harvest, of any plants that you've dried or successes you've had with roots or leaves or berries, do share it on the Kitchen Witch Goblin Facebook page. Sephora says, be careful with seeds for agapanthus and the dog. I am mindful. We've got a few things that, I'm mindful of with the dog, but he doesn't really eat the plants other than he does have a go at the ornamental grass occasionally. But yes, I think that's a good rule for any of the plants in your garden. Be careful with pets. If anyone is free tomorrow, 6 till 8, I think, off the top of my head, we're doing a Sulis workshop. It's to celebrate the launch of the Sulis book. We are running a free online workshop. It's 2 hours. We're going to be Oh, they are 6:30. Thank you. 6:30 to 8:30 UK time tomorrow, Saturday, 7th of September. Sulis. We're going to be doing a talk about her. We're going to be sharing some photos that we've taken from various trips to Bath. Lots of information about her, how to work with her, and we're going to do a Sulis ritual as well. So that'll be streaming to all the usual online places. That's Saturday, 7th September. Myself, Heather and Ness, 6:30 to 8:30. Very excited about that because Sulis is very pleased to be getting out in the world. If you are looking for any of the things that we're doing, do have a look on the websites, my website or the Kitchen Witch website on the events page to let you know what we're doing. There's lots of stuff going on, lots and lots of stuff going on. And we're doing the readings as well, if anyone wants reading. Yes, Xenia. Yep, I did see that. Thank you, Xenia. Yeah, Pagan Tribal, for anyone that's interested, Pagan Tribal Gathering is on for June next year. It will be on, the Sulis will be on replay as well. It'll be there afterwards for anyone that wants to watch the replay. Lots and lots going on. We are running 3 workshops over in Hayes at Crystal Wicker in a couple of weeks. Myself and Heather will be doing readings at the opening of the new shop in Wickham, the Raw Eden shop in Wickham. We're going to be doing that in October. So have a look at the events page. And as always, if you'd like me to talk about anything particular, do pop me a message and we will do our very best to cover the subjects. But that has been very quiet today. No, very little barking, which is all good. Thank you, as always, for joining me. And I will catch you all again next week and hopefully tomorrow. Take care.